Awesome to have you guys here. We're in Byron for Synthesis in person, and it's been amazing just to hear you guys share and other builders share about just bettering yourselves and always there to better the service that you guys provide for your clients, the outcome, the relationship, the journey you take them on. One thing that I know you guys are real passionate on is doing things a bit differently for the outcome of the client. And one of those that you raised was the tendering process and how you guys go about doing things differently. Can you guys elaborate a bit on that for listeners?
So I think there's two ways really that clients come to us. Mm-hmm. Quite often they'll come to us, they've decided that we're their builder, they'll engage us formally, and we basically saddle up together and collaborate towards delivering a common goal for the client, which is always our preference. The other thing that occurs is that clients want to run a tender type process.
What is that? For those who don't know that, what does that traditionally look like?
So a tender process is where a client or an architect on behalf of the client invites typically 3 builders, say, to tender on that project to provide a quote. Now, the problem with that is sometimes, firstly, the documentation may not be complete. And so quite often clients
when you say not complete, because that's something I do hear a lot from builders who are frustratedly engaged with the whole tendering process. Where are some of those gaps sometimes?
It might be incomplete spec. It'd probably be the easiest one, right?
Okay.
Or things not completely refined or finalised, but they want to go out and test the market and see what it's actually going to cost to deliver. So it could be as simple as no appliances or no tapware or something like that, and it leaves it up to the builder to individually kind of provide some sort of cost.
Ambiguous.
Yeah, that's right. And I'm sure most builders listening to this would have been through that process. We're not sure what we're going to do with the appliances, for example. And then, you get 3 quotes come in, and one builder's like, this house is, $1.5 million. It needs, Miele appliances, and they're 15 grand. And another one's like, $5 grand for appliances. And another one might have actually gone back and engaged with the client and got some, somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, if the documentation's not complete and you've just got a set of plans and maybe some engineering, and then the client invites 3 builders to tender, the client might think they're comparing apples, and apples, but they're actually comparing apples, oranges and pears. Right. Because to Chris's point, for us, for example, we would never make allowances for really poor quality, low-end appliances and tiles and things like that. We just wouldn't. That's not our product. That's not who we are. But what some builders and potentially unscrupulous builders might do is they will make allowances for the really low-cost items. They'll be the lowest price, so that's attractive to a client.
Because the whole quote then looks quite low.
Yeah, so then the builder might win the job on price, and all of a sudden the whole selection process is about price. Price is only one element of a project. There's a lot of other elements to qualify a builder on. Capability, history, reviews, trust, all these other factors that are critically important. And what often happens in that scenario is the client later on realises that actually this isn't the home I wanted, and then that builder will hit them with variations and might even be a higher ultimate contract price.
Okay.
So it's very important if clients are going to run a tender process that they have complete documentation, all the specifications are clearly outlined, then you are comparing apples and apples from a price perspective.
Okay. What's a better way to go about doing it then?
Well, what we prefer to do with clients in this scenario is go, look, if the documentation's not complete, we'll let the client know that it's not complete and that they're going to be receiving 3 prices with 3 different numbers with 3 different specs and allowances, and it's really not a good process to follow. So what we would typically encourage the client to do at that point is pick their builder. Who do you feel comfortable with? Who do you think is going to be able to deliver your project on time, on budget, to a high quality? Who's going to give you a good experience?
Yeah.
Our price, whether it's a tender or not, isn't going to be any different because we price every job the same way. Cost plus a standard margin plus GST. Yeah. So we encourage the client to formally engage us. We partner up together towards a common goal.
Yeah.
And then when we get to the end of the pricing, we're very transparent. And a lot of people probably wouldn't do it this way, but we articulate the price cost centre by cost centre, so they can see there's quite a few pages of calculations that our estimator does. Of course, there's a number at the bottom, but they can see how we arrived at that number. And then if the number's too high for their budget, we offer up a menu of options to value manage the project back down to budget or as close to as possible. It might mean some trade-offs and some compromises. And that's the difference, I think, between a lot of other builders and what we do.
Yeah.
We're a partner. We want to deliver your project to your budget.
Right.
And when you run a tender process, it becomes all about price
Yeah.
and not about the really important other factors that are important when selecting your builder.
Yeah, I think it's about changing the narrative, JP. You know, like it's not about price; it's about value. So there's a businessman that's an older gentleman than Paul and I in Geelong, and we have lunch with him maybe once a quarter, and he says to us that price is what you pay and value is what you get. And I think there's a lot of value in that. And it's a mindset change, right? And I understand the client's mindset to come in and, I want a price. But, mate, that's so old and antiquated. These days, you should be selecting a builder on the builder himself and what you think he can deliver for you, and that is value, that's quality, safety, obviously, and his schedule. And those are the things that, at Arca we're going to compete on. We don't want to sit there and compete on price. We're going to flip that narrative around and say, yep, we're totally capable to deliver your project, and that's why we are transparent on price, because on the way things cost and how they cost, because we've got nothing to hide.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I think there's probably a bit of a stigma for tradies and for builders that we're just there to pull money out of your pockets and we're unscrupulous, to use Paul's word, but that's not the case. Like, it costs money to deliver the projects that you see on our marketing and our visuals, and you know what? We're not shying away from that, and that's why it's open book conversation. But yeah, I suppose just to wrap that up, being transparent actually helps us as well identify any of the cost centres that we think are unnaturally high or potentially inflated. That helps us dial them back to bring the project closer to budget.
What does often that first step look like when let's say someone does come to you, because you guys do both? I can come to you with plans, or I can come to you from day one. But if I would
give you a recent example, if you like. So recently, I could think of multiple examples of this exact scenario. So recently, a client came to us with stamped plans, endorsed town planning plans for a multi-res project. Hadn't completed the full construction documentation at that point, and then there's another client that had it, it's ready to go. And for us to do a formal price, a full quote, it takes us about 4 weeks, because we want to put our sharpest price in. We got to get everything priced, quotes from subcontractors,
So there's
suppliers,
real numbers in there,
and it's
that you can stand behind.
That's how we get our sharpest price. I mean, we could price something today and put a number on it, but it's going to be loaded with risk, because we'd have to, if someone asked us to turn a quote around in a day, we'd have to load it so we knew that we were covered. But if we're going to do it correctly, it'll take us 4 weeks and our number will be lower. So in order for us to do that, we offer a service to do that and then saddle up with the client. So they'd formally engage us in that scenario. However, there's another service that we offer to give clients peace of mind and comfort before investing in that step.
Yeah.
And we call it a preliminary cost estimate. So a preliminary cost estimate is halfway between a thumbsuck square metre rate and a full quote. So sometimes clients will go to a builder and go, what's this going to cost me? And one look at the plans, I mean, you're pulling a number out of thin air. It's going to be very inaccurate.
Yeah.
A full quote is going to take 4 weeks and cost. The preliminary cost estimate is a service that we offer to clients for a very small fee. It's depends on the project, but it's less than $1,000 no matter what the project is. We turn that round in a week or less, and it gets the client to a ballpark range, and then the final number will be in that range somewhere.
Yeah.
And so there are calculations and estimates that happen where we actually quantify certain things, and the client receives a report with a breakdown of that preliminary cost analysis and cost estimate. There's no guarantees, of course, but it's it's that halfway house between a ballpark thumbsuck and a quote.
Yeah.
That means the client gets comfort that the project's going to be within X and Y.
Yeah.
If that number's within their budget, great. Then we move to the next stage, get it properly quoted, and then enter into a contract. But if the number's too high at that early stage, Chris and I will then move into the value management exercise, and we'll look at where are the opportunities here. One of them there was a plungy pool. Okay, well the plungy pool is going to cost X. You can either leave it in or take it out or do it another day, or there could be other elements of the project where there's options to pull cost out without negatively impacting the overall project. And so again, that's where the value comes in versus I'll just price this for me.
Yeah.
And getting 3 vastly different quotes back and then going, oh, like these are all so different, and then getting confused. So that back to Chris's point, choose your builder. Who do you feel comfortable with? Who are you confident in? Who's going to represent you? If you're client-centric like we are, it's about delivering value to the client.
Yeah.
Not having a project that's got the highest possible contract price.
Yeah, I think when you talk about sharp price, I think to drill down on that a bit more, it's about pricing accuracy, right? So our goal from a business point of view is to deliver a contract price that is de-risked for our business. So if we have a quote from a plumber that's $30,000, we want to make sure that we can deliver that for the project, right?
Yeah.
So when we talk about sharp pricing, it's more around the accuracy, which requires a fairly high level of engagement with our subcontractors, from our estimating team, myself. We got to really drill down on how we're going to build this project, or how we're going to deliver it, to know what it's going to accurately cost. So, we're pretty practical minded, both Paul and I. Like, we need to figure out how it's going to happen, so we know how much it's going to cost. So, to be honest, budget is a conversation. It has been a topic of conversation on every single project that we've ever done, right from the very first one. I can remember having a budget conversation with our first client, who was my best mate. And he said, Jesus, it's a lot more than we anticipated costing. But now, now in context, we were really close. So it's always been a challenge, but I think that's why we've really honed our skill set and made sure that the contractors and the team that we have around ARCA is capable of that flexibility and innovation that it takes to deliver today.
That's probably, you could probably jump into that as a case study, that friend of yours, but I know you've shared many stories just over the last couple of days, where once someone, there's always the value behind closed doors. That's something we always hear from with builders. And you only know that value behind the closed doors once you start working with them. So what is some of the value that you have behind closed doors that a client wouldn't necessarily know about until they engage with you for a QBE, or before they get a quote, or before they start working with you and build with you? What are some of those areas of real true value that start coming out?
I think probably the first one off the top of my head is our network, right? And the people that we know, and the people that do things that don't necessarily fall inside the realms of a building contract, but are necessary to build a new house and to get into it.
Yeah. What's an example of that, maybe?
It'd be connections for landscaping, it'd be connections for materials, it'll be, we're doing a reno for a really prominent artist at the moment. Do you know what I mean? I think it's all those little connections and within the network that we've invested a lot of time building. Do you know what I mean? Oh, I know a guy for that. Hang on, just bring that to my house, I'll get it sorted. Or drop that at the office, I know someone will fix that up for you. Do you know what I mean? I think, I feel like that part of our team is really, really strong. Like, it just, the network, is the fingers are very long on it.
Yeah. And to build on that one, I think about what sets us apart from other builders. A lot of builders build homes that someone else has designed. Because we design and construct homes, I'm a mechanical engineer by profession. Chris was a carpenter once. Chris has done qualifications in architectural design. We are highly involved in the design process of every home that we build. So we have that... the construction mindset. We know how houses go together and how they get built and where the efficiencies are. And a lot of designers wouldn't have that knowledge. And because we've got a design team in-house and we've got that collaboration between client, designer and builder, we get that optimum outcome every single time. So going back to the tender process, how many projects have come to us that someone else has designed, we've priced it, and we're over their budget, and then we push and pull levers and bring it back to budget. We had one recently. I can think of two recently. One of them, I think we're about 1.2 million on a tender, and the budget was 900, and we managed to get it to pretty much to budget. I won't say the exact number, but it was pretty much bang on. The house envelope didn't change. In many ways, the house was hardly any different, but there was a lot of cost in the steel and the engineering and the way the house had been designed, and it hadn't been designed efficiently. So, I mean, the client was obviously upset to hear that her project was over budget, and we were one of 3 builders that priced it, and they were all up there. She picked us as her builder, and then we worked with the designer. We did the value management exercise, and it was Chris in particular working with the designer and the engineer to make some changes, and they've got the home they wanted for the budget. How many builders out there have that capability? And you wouldn't know. You just wouldn't know. Every builder has a brand.
I reckon we should talk about a time where we've had the tender process and we've nailed the budget and just gone straight to contract.
It has happened, I think, on one or two occasions, but there's usually some.
Closer, but this is a really common challenge, and it's actually quite rewarding and to try and look at a project from a different perspective. And then when you're talking about particularly, like I could sit here hand on heart and say that fundamentally that project hasn't changed. Do you know what I mean? It was
The
just outcome was just the same. I just designed all I did is redesign the structure more efficiently with things that were proprietarily available, and then I just went down a tangent. It took a couple of swipes, and but I just kind of knew in the back of my mind it was doable, right? And we got there and we costed it, and we went back to the client, and there was some education and some convincing that this was still the same house. Do you know what I mean? But by that stage, the trust was pretty high, and they signed a contract, and we started on site this week.
Yeah, it's rising from the ground as we speak.
It's awesome though. Like that's rewarding for me. That's rewarding, right? Because it's
And how are the clients feeling about that so far?
Oh, keen. Yeah, they're keen to see it come out of the ground. But I think for most clients, they struggle to connect the dots between what they can see on paper and when it starts to come to life, right? And that's where, like, I really lean on that trust aspect. I just, you have to trust me. This is what's happening. This is how it's going to be. Let's just, we don't need to talk about it anymore. It's sorted, and if I'm on board and I'm comfortable, then jump in
I think it's so
behind.
important for a lot of people. You guys do this every day, so it's second nature to you. You're thinking 10 steps ahead always. That trust is huge, that your clients can trust you, and then you go, we've done this before, it's going to happen. And then just putting their faith in you guys.
The other linkage to that is, and this is why we offer the design and construction service. We're happy to build homes that come to us that have been designed by others, because it gives us the opportunity to build homes by amazing architects, and we love that. And by the way, we're not saying that all architects don't design well at all. There are plenty of projects that have been designed well. So we're not here to badmouth architects at all. When we design homes for clients that we then construct, we apply the same methodology and thinking to the design. So when it comes to spaces and the structure, steel is very expensive. So if we can make very subtle changes to spaces such that a steel beam can be substituted for an LVL timber beam, so it still passes the structural structural integrity is there, and it's correct, and it's been engineered. We're able to use those smarts in collaboration with our engineer to design a highly efficient home, so you get more bang for buck, more value for money, if that makes sense, versus an inefficient design that costs a lot more for the same house, essentially.
And do you find often when someone does come to you right from the get-go to help with the design, that process moves faster?
Probably slower in many ways, because if a client comes to us from the outset, from formal engagement to a building contract, it can depend on the project and how fast the client wants to move, but might be 6 to 9 months
Okay.
Because we've got to do a concept, we've got to do design development, we've got to do feature and level surveys, soil reports, engineering, energy rating specs. That all takes time. So, but when a client comes to us with everything that falls on our lap, all we have to do is price it, and if the number's right, we get out of the ground. So they're great projects because.
But
you know,
how often have they maybe spent with the designer?
Oh,
prior to
heaps
that?
of time. Yeah, that time's
9 to
happened
12,
before
yeah.
our engagement, obviously.
that's 6 to 9 months. That we,
It's, yeah.
but with an architect.
Yeah.
So as I said before, we're happy for clients to come to us with plans. That, you know, we love that. We also love it when they come to us for a design that we do. We're flexible in that regard. We're custom home builders, and we're passionate about the quality side. Just to touch on the quality for a minute, and going back to the piece around tenders. The other thing that concerns Chris and I with tenders is that the quality of other builders. So we've been around the block, you know, we've been, you know, Arca, we founded the business originally 8 years ago. Prior to that, both Chris and I have worked in other industries, and we've got a lot of experience. And there's a lot of trades that have worked with us over the years that will never work for us again, because for us it's about delivering value and quality. And there's a lot of trades out there, respectfully, that we just wouldn't touch with a barge pole. They may be cheaper, and bish bash bosh, you get it framed, and next minute the walls aren't plumb and straight, and they've not been buzzed properly, and then you've got a problem with plaster, and then the joinery doesn't fit, and then you paint it, and it might look great on some pictures, but then the client moves in, and all of a sudden they're not happy with the quality of the house. So Chris and I make no apologies for the fact that we're not the cheapest builder. We're not the most expensive either, but we have surrounded ourselves, to Chris's earlier point about team and network, best of the best.
Yeah.
We work with the best. Our carpenters, we demand and set very high expectations and hold our people to account. Our supervision, our electrician, plumber, all of the guys that work with us, A grade. So that might not look too amazing on a tender invitation or a tender submission if builder A is 50 grand less than us. But most of our clients, we've often won tenders actually when our price isn't the lowest, because the client knows what they're getting with us, and they know that builder over here is submitted a low price, but his quality is not where it needs to be.
And a lot of ambiguity and uncertainty.
It's a bit like buying a car. Like, you know, you could buy a brand new car versus you might buy a BMW, and over here you've got a Kia. They both do the job. They both get you from A to B, but they're both very different in terms of quality and longevity and resale and all those sort of things, and comfort and features.
The ashtray will rattle in the Kia, I would say.
I suppose it comes also down to the not all clients perfect fits.
No,
Depends
that's
on what they're
right.
looking for.
But some people are not. Some people are looking for price, right? And that's where that project builder model comes into it, right? Because, you know, I don't know, the average wages in Australia, an average house price, like, it's just not affordable for everyone, for first or second houses, to come to Arca and have this thing that we pour over for hours and hours on end and fine tune and turn into a masterpiece. That's the reality of it. So there are different horses for different courses, and, you know, we've positioned ourselves as a high quality custom builder, you know, that, you know, delivers, you know, based on value, not price.
It's a good point. You know, it's important. It's very important for clients to qualify the builder, and equally, we need to make sure we're qualifying the client. And I don't mean that in an arrogant way. What I mean by that is, we're client centric. The client has to be at the centre of everything. So if a client comes to us and we don't believe they're a good fit for us, or our services aren't a good fit for them, then we will politely refer them on to someone that we believe is a better fit. So we've had clients come to us with a certain budget and they want a certain size home. Straight away, I know that that's a volume builder that they need to talk to, because we will never be able to design and build them a mid to high end custom Arca home with that particular budget. So we respectfully say, look, you can build this home for your budget. We'd recommend that you talk to this builder or that builder, and it might be a project home or a volume builder home. So it's very important that we ensure that the clients, our services are a good fit for them.
If you're first seeking to understand the client's
and that's one of the reasons. Like, the first step in our process is that the clients submit it's a request for consultation form. It's questionnaire, and we collect very useful and valuable information about the client and the project there. So before we've even made contact with the client, we've got a really good handle on what they're looking for and whether we think we're a good fit or not.
Yeah.
And we'll still have a chat, but if we don't believe that we're the right fit, we'll go, look, this is great. We think that this builder would be a better fit than us. And yeah, we've probably done ourselves out of a project, but we've got to hold true to who we are, what we do, what we're passionate about, and where our place is in the market and where it isn't.
Big thank you guys, and yeah, awesome. Always enjoyable chat with you guys. Thank you for sharing that, and enjoy the rest of your time here at Synthesis.
Thanks, JP.
Settle up in the pool, I think.